Hi, I'm James from Outside near Hydra in the Peak District. I would love to be talking about these at a local ice fall, but since it's quite a trek, we're here in our gear room to talk about the latest axes from Black Diamond. We've got the Hydra and the Viper. I really quite like the names of these two because obviously we've got Viper, a snake here, and a multi-headed serpent. That's what the Hydra is. And actually I think they're well named, particularly the Hydra, because they're really versatile and you can do lots of different features within one axe. I'm here today to tell you about both of these axes and what Black Diamond have done to completely revolutionise all their ice climbing options. So I'll go into all the features in a moment, but there's one thing I want to start with because these guys share the same head. That's why they're so versatile and you can switch between different bits and a lot of the components are the same. So I'm going to start with the Hydra and I will start with the head because everything I'm about to tell you crosses over to the Viper and you can just share that knowledge. So this actually came out last year and Black Diamond were incredibly excited, as were a lot of people, because they spent a lot of time and effort making this what they consider absolutely perfect. They worked really closely with absolutely legendary ice climber Will Gadd, and he had a lot of influence on this and he just thinks they've absolutely nailed it. So there's a lot I can talk about down here, but like I said, I'll start up here because it's shared on the Viper and the Hydra. Black Diamond have forever used steel heads. That's because steel gives a good weight for when you're swinging into the ice to get a good whack. But actually for the first time ever, they used an alloy. So alloy has enough strength to be used for a tool like this. It's really durable, good strength. But again, they used to use it for the weight options. But now, with all what they can do in here with the different weights and picks and things like that, they've realized you can modify it yourself to get the perfect setup. So winter climbing comes in loads of different variations these days. There's like pure ice where it can be really quite hard, vertical, maybe a bit laid back. You can do mixed climbing where we would consider that like turf and blobs of ice and maybe a bit of rock. And then there's dry tooling where you're always on the rock, sometimes the bolted type where it might even not have any ice in sight. And you're going to try and do it all with one ice axe, and that's where the Hydra comes in. So pretty much everything you can see here in the top half is modular. You can change the picks. There are 4 different types for your desired setup. This thing here is a head weight. It comes with 2 different weight options. So you've got a heavyweight or a lightweight, depending on how you want to swing it. There's one on each side. If you like it perfectly in the middle, you can put one of each weight on to get a medium weight. You can also change what you get at the back here. It comes with a mini hammer. You can get the bigger alpine hammer. You can actually put the alpine adds on there as well. So you can just change pretty much everything from a really aggressive dry tooling pick with minimum behind it to a really light ice climbing thing for the alpine with a big adds or hammer on the back. Really versatile, and you can change it really easily depending on what you're doing on the day. Bearing in mind everything I just said also applies for the Viper because that is the same head. So the 4 different picks that are available are the ice, the alpine, the mixed and the dry. So yeah, which one's for you? I would say we'd generally go for the mixed pick here in the UK because let's be honest, you walk into the Ben, you might not actually know what route you're going to do when you get there, so you're ready for anything. And so while you can do nearly anything with any of these picks, they're all just perfectly designed for their desired options. So obviously the ice is going to go really nice into the ice. What they do say, one of the main features is how easily it cleans and comes back out again. You can probably drive the dry pick nicely into the ice, but actually it might be really hard to get back out again. So they all work perfectly for their desired environment. I do really like though the pick weight options because I do find I would change that. If I'm going to do a mixed route or dry tooling route, whatever you want to call it, where there's a lot more talking going on and not much swinging, don't want too much weight in my axe. If I know I'm going ice climbing and you want to do a little flick and it whack into the ice, I really like the idea of the heavyweight at the top. And again, a lot of the time, if you're going pure ice climbing or pure mixed and there's not going to be anywhere, you've got to dig ledges and things like that, why would you want an adds in the back? It might get in the way, might offset the weight, things like that. So don't put it on, and then put it on. If you go into the alpine environment, you've got to chop some ledges or snow holes or anything like that. That could be really useful to add that at a later date. So the Hydra is the more technical of the 2 tools. Now what I mean by that is they have built it for steeper terrain and more gnarly sort of climbing where it might be vertical ice or mixed, things like that. Doesn't mean you can't do all the easy grade routes too, but that's generally where it's been designed. They've got this Hydra formed shaft coming down here towards the handle, and they worked a lot to make sure the balance is absolutely perfect. So even if you've got the heavy weights on the top, it doesn't feel too heavy because the balance is just right and it's directly above your hand. And that curve gives you lots of clearance. If you're on that steep terrain and there's bulges and things, you might want to like hook in and not get in the way and knock the handle off. So a lot of clearance on there. Also, they've just been weighted perfectly. When you hook this on something and you're changing hands, it's completely stable. There's no shifting like you used to get on older axes, and you feel really secure in your placement. The handle feels absolutely brilliant. It's really comfortable, and you can see the metal coming in from the shaft in here as well, which makes it incredibly strong, of course. And then you've got the bolt riveting through here when you want to change your attachments. You've got two nice grip options, so when you're going higher on the tool or a bit lower. And you can actually change the size of the handle as well. Obviously, I've got quite big hands, and if I wear thick gloves, sometimes I'll really struggle with the size of a handle. So you get these little spaces that you can fill it out and make it bigger, or take them away if you've got smaller hands or wearing skinnier gloves. That also leads me on to the spike at the bottom. It comes with this micro spike, which sort of doesn't really get in the way when you're using it, but gives you something to dig in with when you're descending, etc. But what that also means is because that roundedness sits in your hand, you can get a really good flick and it will just sort of glide around in your hand. Whereas the big spikes when they stick out the bottom, you've got to do a bit more of a full shoulder swing. So it's really nice that you can change that and have it however you like. Because what you can do, of course, it's so modular, is you can add the alpine spike. If you were going on bigger terrain, you know you're doing a lot of plunging and stuff like that, it might be nice to have a bigger spike than that. The alpine spike will of course allow you to clip your spinner leash straight into it, but also you may be worrying, but I like to have a leash with me at all times. Where am I going to hook it on here? There's actually a tiny little hole in the micro spike that it comes with, and when you take that out, you can actually re-thread some cord in there, which is really great for then clipping your spinner leashes to again. I like the idea of climbing leashness, but let's be honest, I'm so clumsy, I drop them all the time, sometimes on purpose, and I like to know they're not going to the bottom of the crag or the whole mountain. BD lent us a demo pair, and I must admit, the staff have been absolutely blown away. The first person who used it came back and just texted me going, "Where do I get them from? The best tool I've ever used, I've got to get a pair." So I think they're going down well. And there's been a real mixed terrain again, so a bit of mix, bit of ice, bit of slush, and seem to be working perfectly. Small hands, big hands, everyone's loving them. And I think that just shows how versatile it is, because we've got quite a range of grades that have been climbed. But also I know our local hardcore dry tool who goes down to the Crag of Dreams down at Mass and Lees, and he actually decided this is his now favourite ice tool for dry tooling. And one of the reasons, other than the great handle and the picks and all that sort of thing, is actually he found it was perfect for sticking in his mouth when he's swapping hands, because that's sometimes the way they like to do it while they're changing picks and hands mid-route. A little bit niche, I know, but some of the other tools just were falling out, they're getting dropped. So well done, BD. I hope you planned it around his mouth. The Hydra comes set up with the micro hammer and the micro spike, the ice pick, and both sets of weights. And of course the handle spacers and the Allen keys to do it all with. So you can see with all these iterations of what you can do why they called it the Hydra, the multi-headed beast. However, if that does feel too gnarly for you and you're mainly in alpine terrain, then maybe you might want to consider the Viper. Now just quickly, I thought I might do a quick overview of why I say alpine terrain. I sometimes say that and wonder, does anyone actually know what that means? So mixed terrain and sort of steep ice can often be short approach. You don't even have your tools out, you get them out, you climb the thing, you abseil off, blah, blah, blah. There's hardly any walking around and things like that. That's when the Hydra would be perfect. But if you're in alpine terrain, so the actual Alps or big mountains, things like that, there's a lot of moving on easy terrain, maybe even flat glaciers, plunging and ice axe arresting. And so actually a tool like the Hydra can be a bit overkill and hard to use, particularly when plunging. That's where the Viper comes in. So possibly even more versatile than the Hydra, because remember everything that's said about the head? Exactly the same. It looks nice and alpine the way it's set up with its hammer or its adze behind me. But of course, remember, that can come off. You can put the different weights on, you can get that dry pick on there and make it look like a real gnarly beast. The actual curve of the shaft here, again, is exactly the same. Hydra formed really nice curve, so we know the weight is great, as is the swing. But then the differences come in when we get down to the handle. So while the grip down here is maybe not quite as good for if you're climbing really steep terrain and you want a really ergonomic handle to do a pull-up on it, etc., it's really nice being quite straight, and that's for a few good reasons. So like I say, you're in the alpine environment, you're going up a big mountain, you want to plunge the axe quite a lot. Even if you do nothing with this pommel at the bottom, a straight handle will go into the snow much easier. BD have even added an extra cool feature where you can actually put this bottom pinky grip away and get a straighter bit at the bottom there, so it'll plunge even easier, and that can just fold straight back out again when you get to the steeper terrain. Similar with the upper grip rest, again, that's really good for when you're high up on the tool. That can unclip and just get moved up the shaft so you can actually plunge even easier and even hold it nicely in that higher grip position. So many different options and really versatile. You can even remove this upper pommel. The Viper again comes with the ice pick, both sets of head weights. It comes with the bigger hammer and adds, if you're buying a pair that is, comes with the bigger spike on the bottom and of course the sliding pommel. So the Viper's like the perfect alpine all-rounder. You could have it set up all for a perfect, really hard mixed route on ice route. Then the next day you might go and do a really easy alpine route, which might just be a ridge with a lot of walking involved, and make it feel like a totally different axe by changing everything on it. So two hugely versatile axes which cross over a little bit. It's hard to know which would be perfect for you. If you enjoyed this video, that's great, but if you get a chance, come down to the shop and put them in your hands and have a little swing and see which you like. I hope this was helpful. If you like things like this, maybe consider subscribing to our channel and check out all our videos on YouTube.